We are very excited about today's show, but before we begin, we have Jessie Ledoux with our product feature of the week. Jessie, tell us what you got for us.
So, Stephen, I'm so excited that the weather is finally starting to change in many parts of the world. So, we're shedding winter coats and we are donning lighter fabrics, daring necklines, etc. So, this product of the week is an essential for every woman as they shift to that summer wardrobe. It's Bosom Couture Boob Glue.
Okay, so what does said boob glue do? Does it work like butt glue?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, one thing that I feel like is a huge problem with the boob securing market is something called fashion tape, which I think if those are listening, probably like 90% of you are probably using fashion tape to secure your shirts to your skin so that you don't have a wardrobe malfunction if you wanted to wear something a little more daring in the front. And the problem with the fashion tape is your clothing fabric is stronger than the tape. So it often will like just peel off, or you sweat and the tape peels off, and it just is a recipe for disaster. So when boob glue came on the scene, I was super excited because it's stronger, it's longer lasting, and it doesn't damage my clothing. I find that with the tape, sometimes I get a residue, but this is like, mwah, perfect.
Okay, now give us the pageant applications. What type of phases of competition would you wear it in? And then also real world applications.
Yeah, so with a lot of pageant gowns or pageant wardrobe items, you have low cut tops or even strapless tops and with open back. So you can't really wear a regular bra with it. So you need something to be able to like scoop the boobs, right? We always talk about the boob scoop where you kind of lift and push them together and hope they stay there. This boob glue is actually gravity defying. So when you're doing your scoop in your low cut or your strapless gown, you can hold your breast in place where you want it to stay. Put the glue on your skin, adhere the fabric to it, and then when it dries, it takes like a little less than a minute to dry, so you're not standing there forever. And then once you let go, your boobs should stay where you have them, which is pretty cool.
Okay, now is this primarily in girls listening everywhere they probably know this, I don't know, but should you only use boob glue when you're not wearing a bra?
No, you can definitely wear it when you're wearing a bra. So if you have a pesky strap that you know like just keeps popping out, go ahead and put a little boob glue on either the bra strap directly to your fabric, which is like really cool because then it's not on your skin at all. Or you can put it directly on your skin right above the strap and stick the fabric to it directly skin to fabric. But you can wear it at any time that you feel like there's going to be a mishap where you're not going to look 100%.
Okay. Now, in pageantry, is this something that you could put on backstage before you're said, like going out maybe into swimsuit or evening gown? And would you have enough time to pretty much transition? Like if you did wear it in swimsuit, would you have enough time to transition to your evening gown, or is there cleanup with it?
Well, it goes on clear and it dries really quickly. Like I said, less than a minute. So I would say you want to do a practice run if you have different necklines that you're going to be wearing in your pageant, because like I said, it goes on clear and it dries fast, but there may be a little bit of residue, which I always just fix with a baby wipe. So, I mean, most pageant girls have baby wipes or wet wipes in their kits already, so that's not a problem, but it's pretty quick transition.
Okay. And last question. Does it stain the fabric, or like if you have a really expensive evening gown, you don't want to take that risk? The potential that it'll stain?
No, so it's water soluble. So it's pretty easy to clean. And obviously, like you said, we're spending thousands upon thousands of dollars in our evening gowns. Most of the time, this is just going to be on the lining of the gown, which can be washed really gently by hand with like a wool light or something, or you can get it dry cleaned. I mean, if you look at any pageant girl's closet, many of us have spray tan marks all on the inside of our couture gowns, but then on the outside they look pristine. So, right, it's for stage. But I would say your clothing is pretty safe.
Awesome. Okay. How long does it last? How much does it cost, and where can they get it?
Yeah, so it lasts. So it's pretty much based upon the condition. So if you're not in 95-degree heat sweating your tail off and you're not moving around a lot, of course it's going to last for hours upon hours upon hours. But otherwise, if you're doing a lot of moving or you're sweating, I would say probably the longest I've gotten wear out of it is like 4 hours, which is pretty significant. Like that's a night out in my opinion. So yeah, test it out, see what works. And on our website at shop.thepageantplanet.com, we actually have a bra hack video by Miss Montana USA, Danny Walker, to kind of show you how it works.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessie.
Welcome to the Pageant Planet podcast, where we help you succeed in pageantry. Now, here's your host, Stephen Roddy.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode. Today, Jesse and myself, we're going to discuss how to get out of a rut in pageantry. So, Jesse, set the stage for us.
So, Stephen, it's no secret. I always tell our listeners that a lot of the podcast topics that we do come from personal experience. So, a few weeks ago, I was in this terrible rut, and I was like, we got to talk about this because I know that I am not alone. So, a real quick, my personal description of a rut would be it can look and feel different for different people. So, keep that in mind as we talk today. But irritability, pity partying, mopiness are some of the most common characteristics. And what I found is this is actually totally normal. It's ups and downs are a part of life, and just sometimes things don't go your way a few times in a row, and it can lead to this extended period of irritability, mopiness, pity partying.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Now, how does this necessarily show up in pageantry? Like for you as a former contestant, did it show up in your training where you start to get overwhelmed, or did it show up at the actual pageant?
It was more leading up to training. I'm glad that you asked. It happens a lot when you're trying to hit your goal weight, or you're trying to hit a certain number of hours, and you're just you're not getting the right phone calls answered or returned, or your spray tan funks out one day, and it's just a compiling of issues that nothing seems to be going right, even though you're working so hard because you're putting all your time and energy into it, and you're not seeing the universe return that energy to you yet, and that's when you hit the rut.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So,
Even do you get into ruts?
Yeah, completely. Last week, really, with our website's launching, which should be actually launching tomorrow, which is Monday. We should be doing a soft launch there. With the website has come all 18 members of our staff. Right, every department has changed how they're doing it. And for me, ruts come a lot when I'm just emotionally exhausted. I've been working 14 to 17 hours a day for the past almost 2 weeks. And then I just really crashed as of yesterday, where I felt just zombie. And I saw it creeping up because that irritability that you spoke before, somebody on the staff just made a minor mistake, and I noticed I was more short with them. I'm like, God, that's not like me. So I started to look internally and be like, why is this showing up? And I'm like, oh, okay, got it. Just stress of life and not giving myself adequate time to recover, emotionally. And then, you are going to be short, whether normally it happens with the people that's closest with you, because those are the people that you can somewhat let it down. So in my case, Renata gets the brunt of it, poor girl. So whenever I'm in a rut, she's the one who experiences it most. But yesterday I hit a total brick wall and was exhausted, and I just had to recharge and do things that would get my energy level back up.
Yeah, and you bring me to the perfect first point of how to get out of this rut. It's recognizing that you are in the rut. Because it's one thing to just be in a bad mood. It's another when you can be okay, here, I love that you just said, I looked internally, and here's why I'm in this mood. So when you're in that rut, you're not yourself, like you said, and you have a shorter fuse, you're more exhausted, or you're just really more self-critical. You're looking at all of your little flaws that normally don't bother you, but they make you, but they're just eating you alive that day. So once you're recognizing it, it's just not you. It's a lot easier to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So these thoughts and behaviors are only temporary, and you got yourself through it. So at least you recognize it. You might still feel like you're in that rutty place, but at least you know that that's what's causing it. So recognizing the rut is the first step. And Stephen, what do your ruts look like?
Well, I had a really good, it's really fresh since it just happened yesterday. But for my ruts, they look like you're just energy wise, everything seems daunting. Opening up my email seemed like the equivalent of trying to hold a rattlesnake that was trying to attack me. It was just everything seems like, oh God, I don't think I can click the button and read an email today. It's the world for me almost starts to seem like a scary place where it's I'm scared to look or open up an email because I don't know if I can handle another negativity in or a perceived problem, so things like that can just where I'm in that sense of overwhelm. And if I'm ever sure signs like that I'm in a rut is when I look around my house and it's not organized. Like if I look in my closet, it's like, the t-shirts are not where the t-shirts should be. The t-shirts are where the sweatpants should be, or they're not, the clothes aren't even in the closet. I just drop it right before. Or with Renata and I, for our house chores, I take care of the dishes. So if the dishes are piling up, then it's like, okay, that's a sign. So whenever I see the dishes or the closet, or I'm looking at my office now, and if I'm seeing some stuff that's not organized around my office, I'm like, I do an internal check. Like, wait a minute, am I kind of in a rut? And am I going through some things here? And that's kind of what it looks like for me. What about yourself?
So my ruts, I am like wallowy, dramatic, ridiculous, over the top. Like I'll send Kevin these ridiculous texts like, I'm not even going to go to that party, or we're not even going to go to dinner tonight. I'm just going to stay at home and you can go by yourself. And I'm beyond dramatic. And typically I'm pretty level headed. I keep my cool 99% of the time. But when I'm in the rut, like I have no control over my emotions, which is like the antithesis of every other day. So once I'm like recognizing that I just can't keep it together, I'm like, okay, we gotta recognize here.
Yeah, completely. So how do you start to pull yourself out of it when you recognize, okay, I'm in a rut? How do you start to, jerk yourself out back to reality?
Yeah. So after you've acknowledged the rut, the next step is share the fact that you're feeling down and out with those closest to you. Just like you said, like that's often who feels it most. So even if you can't exactly verbalize why you're feeling this way, and I think for pageant girls, this is a big one, because like we put so much of ourselves into everything, and it's just like you feel down, and we can't always put together why, because things are going great. You're in your communities, you look beautiful all the time, your wardrobe is on point, but for some reason you can't get out of this place. So like even if you can't put all of that into words, you have to just share how you're feeling with them. And it's important that like they are understanding their role to lift you up in these situations. And for me, like I said, if all else fails, just send a dramatic text to someone that knows you're in a rut and they can baby you out of it.
Yeah, I do like that. And really this happened the time I was in a rut before this one. I remember because you and I were talking, and the next day you're like, wow, you just seem so much lighter. And it was after that phone conversation, I was looking back. I mean, it was maybe, I don't know, 8 or 9 hours after we talked. I was like, why did I perceive like that? I had the same amount of troubles, like same amount of drama. And I was like, oh, I saw Renata in the kitchen. I was just like, I just need you to feel sorry for me. I need you to baby me. I just need you. And she was like, oh yeah, you work so hard. I know. It's real. I mean, it really, she hugged me and was patting me on the back. And she was like, I know. And because she sees the behind the scenes of
Sure.
Challenges that no one else does. And I was just like, I just need that. And so when she went over the top and babied me, as crazy as that sounds, like in the middle of our kitchen, I was like, okay. And then you were my first call after that. It took her, I don't know, 20 seconds to do that. And I was just like, all right, I'm good.
I'm back.
Yeah, I'm back. Like, bring on the next challenge. But sometimes it's just as simple as like getting some empathy from someone that you love that will help like just jerk you out of that rut.
I totally agree. And that's such a big piece. So whether it's your mom, your coach, your boyfriend, girlfriend, somebody in your life that will not judge you for being in a rut and will not try to fix. Like they're not fixers. They don't want to solve your problems. They want to, like, just like you said, empathize with you so you can get through it.
Yeah, because that is the worst, is to go with a fixer. And us as guys, we like to fix things. They give us a car, we want to fix it. Give us a house, give us a problem. Like, great, let's go into fix. Which is not necessarily what women need, or guys need. Like when they're complaining, sometimes they just want to like just unload. So just hearing that and be like, God, that really sucks. Like, do you want to you want to go out and get something to eat, or do you want a pizza? Like, pizza always makes me happy.
Pizza solves life.
I know, pizza.
Oh my gosh.
So, $11 is a cheap therapy bill, for some pizza or whatever. But yeah, just doing something, just having that safe zone to get it off of your chest often shakes you out of that rut.
I totally agree. And so like you've recognized the rut, you've shared that you're in a rut with someone. So the next step for me, and Stephen will talk about this like in more detail, but like allowing yourself to wallow. And I get a little excited talking about this because I'm not in a rut right now, but wallowing is like the best part of rut recovery for me because like we alluded to this earlier, but pageant contestants are often like we're really like high energy all the time. You're optimistic, you aim for perfection. And it is hard to be on all the time. And like truly nobody can sustain that. I mean, that's why you have burnout rates of contestants when they're competing or when they finish competing or they finish reigning. It is exhausting. So like be over dramatic, be weepy, totally veg out, like whatever it is. Steven, do you find yourself wallowing in your ruts?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can give you an example of yesterday. So for listeners, our website was supposed to launch on Friday, and then we had some challenges, and then so they're like, okay, we're going to launch Saturday morning, which is our tech team's in India. So I stayed up until like 1:30 in the morning working with them, and then got up 6 a.m. the next morning on Saturday. And this was after, again, like working a lot over the past 2 weeks, and it still didn't launch. And like when it didn't launch again, and this time it wasn't the tech team, it was the server team, and as a result of something that the SEO team did, and it was just like, and I just felt so just defeated. So I give up in sprints. So I'm like, I quit, totally quitting, and I went in and just watched Netflix, and I watched I like typical guy, like watch war shows, like Vikings is a really good one. So I watched Vikings, and then after I watched Vikings for, I don't know, 3 hours, then I was like, okay, I recognized I was wallowing a little bit, but I recognized that I started to need to get out of it, because there was still a lot of things I needed to do, yet I still wanted to wallow. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go work out, but I have I listen to Apple Music, so I have a playlist. It's called Whiskey and Contemplate, where it's like
Netflix and chill, but whiskey and contemplate.
Yeah, and it's like my sad, sappy, like whiskey sipping, like love songs. It was just like, but I was working out to that, like, so I'm working out and just like, you know, about like your wife leaving you, your dog leaving you, all that stuff. And Renata's like, oh gosh, like, how do you listen to this sometimes, you know? But I like it because it keeps me deep in thought. And then even after that, when I worked out, I told Renata, I'm like, okay, definitely need some pizza tonight. And I watched more Netflix. So it was probably like a 6-hour day of just me recharging, watching Netflix.
Sometimes that is so like cathartic though, like you just need it. It recharges you. And it's an activity that many of us like skip when we're constantly on the go. Like you're like, I don't have time to just sit and reflect or veg or whatever you do. And I will say the only thing to keep in mind is when you are in the wallow stage, like set a deadline for yourself. Like I like that you said like, okay, I need to get some things done, because you don't want to like be comfortable in this space. You need to make sure that you're setting a deadline. Otherwise, like the negativity may get the best of you for the long haul. It may become your homeostasis. So if you say, okay, on Monday, I'm in this rut. By Friday, I'm going to be ready to go. I'm going to get fully done, and I'm going to go out. Like with whether it's my girlfriends or my fiance, I'm going to get out of this house and live my best life. So set that deadline for yourself so that it's not like a long-term thing.
Well, it's important too that I look through my to-do list. I look through my appointments to saying, okay, what am I obligated to do today? Like, what is my staff needing from me? What is like my wife needing, my family? Like, what commitments, verbal commitments did I get today? And I make sure those things are handled. Now, everything else that is very important for my life moving forward, our company moving forward, that still need to be done. But it's not necessarily end of the world if I delay it for 24 hours. Could I get through and could I push through? Yes, I have before in the past, and I've done it. But then on a day like today, Sunday, which is ramping up for our website going live tomorrow on Monday, I know that today I would not have been effective if I did not allow myself to wallow yesterday. So by saying wallowing, and Jesse will, back me up on this, you definitely hold to all of your commitments. Suck it up, be an adult. But then after you've held to your commitments, put off what you can and then take care of yourself, because you always have time. That's a lie. That's totally a lie that you don't have time to take care of yourself.
I completely agree. And that's the biggest thing is like, you're totally right, Stephen, is you still have to like if you're wallowing, you still have to fulfill your commitment. So if you agreed to an appearance on a Saturday morning, but you're in your rut, you still got to get up and make it happen. And sometimes that stuff will help you get through your rut, like just returning to like what you're used to. But yeah, certainly don't fluff off, like pay your bills on time, do your homework, study, whatever you got to do, get it done.
Yeah, well, which is funny because that was the one thing that I had to do yesterday, and I was sitting on the couch. I'm like, well, time to pay that one bill. So I logged in, but even that was like almost my hands were shaking while I'm logging in. Yeah, it was. It was.
Oh my god!
It was like I was on my final set at the gym or something like that. I'm like, okay, you can do this, and it was.
Work yourself up to it. Like I find, like okay, if I know I'm dreading something, I'll put it like a 5-minute timer, and then I'll do something I really enjoy for 5 minutes, and as soon as that goes off, I'm like, oh. And work yourself in, whatever works for you. You just got to get it done.
Yep, you do, and you got to play a game with it. I mean, it does make it fun to do a game around the activity. So
yeah,
yep,
for sure. Okay, so we've recognized, we've shared, we've wallowed, and now this is a really fun one that I don't think people take advantage of enough, and it's appreciating the little things. And like for me, one of my brand words is celebration, and like people that know me know this is like I get excited about everything, like everything I come up with or something that like works together perfectly. I'm like, oh, this is like the best. And that's just me as a person. So like putting my slippers on at the end of the day or treating myself to like a specialty coffee in the morning instead of like my regular Keurig stuff. Like I get like happy dance excited for those little moments. And like if I can paint a picture, there's like a GIF. I say GIF because the inventor of the GIF calls it a GIF, so that's correct. But everyone else says GIF. But I'll say strong. But just saying,
pioneering.
Whatever. I'm going with it. So there's a GIF of Winnie the Pooh dancing while he's like eating honey, and like that is me when I eat, when I put my slippers on, anytime. There could be anything. But so what I'm saying is, as I've gone around the block to go next door, is you have to find the little moments in life that you can get excited about. So maybe they're so mundane that you don't even think about them during the week when you're not in your rut. They just happen. But there are things that we find comfort in without even realizing it. So now is the time to realize those moments and really soak them in and say, oh, wow, I can't wait to get home and take these shoes off and put my bunny slippers on, or driving to work. Even though you're dreading it, like, oh, I'm in such a rut, but you know, I'm going to get that latte today because I deserve it. And like, find those moments to truly like soak in the goodness of life.
Yeah, and if you think about the word rut, like, and it comes from, I mean, it's a country term, but like if you're driving a truck in the mud and you orient in the grass and you keep following the same path, you're going to do a rut. So your tire pretty much goes along a predetermined path, and you're not really even able to turn out of the rut. So just wherever the rut's leading you, that's where you're going. So I think what you're saying with the little things is, in essence, switching up your routine. One of the things that I did this when I was single, and I found that was really beneficial, is I would literally sleep on the opposite side of the bed, like at a platform bed. And so sometimes I would put my head where my feet were. And so I'd wake up on pretty much a different side of the bed. Or I would, if I'm used to sleeping on the right, I'd sleep on the left. Yesterday, like when I was in a rut, like I look for different ways to adjust my routine. So I added coffee to my Netflix, and it was just me, coffee, Netflix, and then of course the tech team would send messages to me. I would pause my Viking show, go in and do everything. But then what I did is like I needed to change up my routine. So after the gym, I came and I took a shower in our other bathroom rather than our master bath, and just that little pulling out the funk helped. And water, there's something really soothing about water. That's why a lot of people sing in the shower. Is scientifically, like those waterfalls, it produces positive ions, which gives you that sense of like euphoria, relaxation. That's why a lot of people are drawn to the ocean and fountains. And so when I was in there, I was just sitting there, arms crossed in the shower, just staring at the wall. And I was like, oh, I'm just out of balance right now. Like I'm just so focused on kind of the negative of like what's happening or the perceived problems. I'm just not looking at all the positives. And then so after the shower, I got and made the list of the perceived problems and then came up with some potential solutions. And then also made a list of like everything that's going right in my life and talked about like, again, on paper, just me, the wall, and, Sammy, our dog, and just wrote out like, okay, here's the opportunity. Here's the potential benefits out of like this perceived problem that I can do. And then I had a course of action. I felt like, okay, good. So I knew it was no longer viewing these problems as suffocating my life, but I was viewing the problems as, hey, here's something that can actually work for my good. And that right there helped to jerk me out of that rut because I was forcing myself to change my course and my habits.
Love that. Yeah, it's so important to just be able to pivot when you need to. I always think of that Friends episode with Ross and the couch pivot. Anybody? Anyway, but you just have to find those moments. And I love that, like, again, that it's so important that when you're in this rut, like, know that you're in the rut. I can't say it enough. It's like, it is like, I think when we were talking about it last, Stephen, you said it was like a mild form of depression. And sometimes it feels like that. And if once you're able to really recognize it before it gets something deeper, and we'll talk about if it does get somewhere deeper later, but you have to be ready to like turn on the dime if you need to.
Yeah. And I also want to acknowledge something you said before. When you're at a pageant, it's kind of like the old saying, what goes up must come down. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, on an energetic level, we're all operating at a certain vibration. And you can call it, if that word energy like rubs you the wrong way, you can just call it excitement. So if you're in an event where there's a lot of excitement, a lot of just energy, then like a pageant, when you detach away from that, right, because it's not sustainable, then go into a slump. So with me, even when I go to a personal development like getaway, if Renata and I were at like a marriage counseling retreat or something like that, or if I'm at a pageant, or if I'm even at a football game where I'm just in the stands and everybody around me is really charged and excited about what's going on, normally it's not abnormal that the following day my energy is less. Right? Because I've expended so much energy the day before, or the weekend before. And geez, I mean, if a pageant is a week long, that's why I call it post-pageant stress disorder. Like, so because like afterwards you're just like, you're just done with life, and you need those few days to recharge. So there's nothing wrong with you. It's just the natural ebb and flow of life, because life seeks balance. If you look at all of life, you have male, female, positive, negative, north, south, east, west, good, bad, devil, God, all the stuff, right? There's that balance there. So if you are too heavy in one direction of energy, of excitement, then life seeks balance. Like what goes up must come down. So again, don't think of yourself as like wrong for it, and don't try to force yourself out of it. Just give yourself a day to recharge using some of the strategies that we spoke of.
Mm-hmm. And then that brings me to my last point. And you talked about like some personal development things that are good for you for life. And the next step, so we talked about the little things, like the little tiny moments that are important. Now we want to flip the switch and talk about the long-term goals. And this really is the most important part of your rut, because this will help you prevent future ruts, or like increase the space between your ruts, because they are, in my opinion, cyclical, for me at least. Like they just kind of come up every few months. But this is like the most important, because if you are in a rut, like we've talked about, there's clearly something deeper bothering you than just on the surface. So this step maps out some ways that you can prevent a rut with the same, without like returning down the line. So things like what is your long-term goal as it relates to like the issue you're facing, and what is a small step you can make towards it today? So like, Stephen, can you give us some examples of what that would be appropriate for?
Well, one of the first things was with Renata and I, we were having a little tiff. And then we said, okay, what's our end game? Like, what's our end goal of this relationship? Right? Like, what is it going to look like when we're 80, when we're married? Like, right? Grandkids around it. So we created an end goal so that we could talk about that when that little argument or whatever seems so important, right? That moment. It's like life and death. It's like, no, toilet paper goes this way, not that way. We don't fight about that, but that's just something. Also, like with Pageant Planet, I go back to what my vision for the company is. And I go back to, in this case of the website launching, what this is going to do for the industry of pageantry and what this is going to do for my staff and what this is going to do for just me personally when I see how this is going to positively affect people all across the world. And in a way, it's going to help pageant directors make more money. It's going to help contestants discover more professionals in their local area. So when I start to think about where we're going in my long-term vision of 10 years out, where I'm not so emotionally like this little insignificant hiccup, I probably won't even remember like in a year, right? So it helps me to have that bigger vision and create some separation between my problems that seems so important now.
Yeah, and I mean, think about the theme of the problems too. So if you are a pageant contestant and you are struggling because you're lacking pageant sponsorship, and so, okay, let's set a meeting with an expert or someone in your family that is great at managing money. So that way you kind of fulfill that need and you have something to work towards. Or maybe you're not loving your figure today. Find a coupon, like those Groupons everywhere for a personal trainer. Just do something that feeds that need of you that like wants to improve, or that part of you that's getting you down. Do something to boost it so you know that you are doing something good for yourself.
Yeah, love that. Taking that positive action step towards a desired outcome, not necessarily like continue to wallow in your problem as it is. Like that's the thing. Most people know and they're really clear about what they do not want. But when you flip it and you say, what do you want? That's when people go blank. And that's the biggest challenge. If you don't know what you do want, you're always attempting to avoid what you don't want. But because what you don't want is the thing that you're focusing on, you see what you don't want all around your life. Mm-hmm. So if you're not liking your results as a pageant contestant, like, oh, I always get top 5, right? It's like, no, what do you want? I want to win. Great. What do winners do? Work with a coach. Maybe it's the evening gown, get proactive. Who can you contact that can help you reach and achieve your goal?
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. So if I may, I want to summarize those steps because I think they are each individually important to the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the first step, like we talked about, is recognizing the rut and remembering that it is totally normal to be there. So an interruption in your daily habits, feelings, mentality, etc. So recognizing, sharing, find a friend or a loved one that will just like hear you out and let it be. And they will help you get through it. They'll empathize with you. They will not fix. That's really, really important. I get annoyed. Like when Kevin wants to fix my rut, I'm like, you gotta get out of my face. Like I want to be here. Let me be here with me. So no fixing. You have to have your time to wallow, veg, recharge, incorporate the little things, the little exciting moments of your day to find celebration. And then the last, like we just talked about, focus on those long-term goals.
So great. Now, what if someone discovers that just even following these steps and they're like, I'm not able to break out, and maybe they feel like they have that they're more extreme even than what we're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, like we said, mental health, like over time has become so much more, so much less stigmatized than it was. So do not be afraid to seek additional help, like a counselor or a therapist. Many churches, colleges, institutions, or even employee assistance program, if you're a professional, have free resources for you to see if this will help. It's so much more of a relevant conversation now. Like, do not be ashamed of it, recognize it, and like your overall well-being is a priority. So do not hide from these ruts. Like if they happen more frequently or are more extreme, like you said, Stephen, like it doesn't hurt to explore the option of talking through it with someone professional to see if maybe future steps need to be taken.
That's great. And any final things that you would like to do before we wrap this up, or any final things that you'd like to say?
Well, I just want to reinforce this is totally normal. And we get here in pageants because we are so focused on every area of ourselves, and it can be exhausting. So for those pageant contestants listening and you're like, yep, I'm about to be in a rut, or I was just in a rut, like you are the highest performing type of people that I have ever met. And I want you to keep focused and keep striving for that success, because you will get there. And these ruts are just a part of the experience.
That's great. Thanks, Jesse.
Want to ask your questions to the title holders and professionals we interview? Become a VIP girl today and get unlimited coaching from the Pageant Planet. Plus, ask as many questions as you'd like for only $47.